keep it real with ya.
Happy Sunday, everybody, from me and Sadie. I know you're probably wondering, like, why is she dressed like this? Well, I'm dressed like this because it is snowing outside, and I live in the South, which means that when it snows, we shut the city down because we have no idea how to handle even half an inch of snow. So I'm just enjoying my lazy Sunday. You know, I slept in, I woke up, Sadie made me sleep again, and then I'm finally up now to continue the ABCs of Minu, and we're finally in the B's. And so today I wanted to talk about the fact that I have been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Now, this is not recent. I was diagnosed a few years ago, but I want to talk about kind of my journey with that. And there's going to be a few bits and pieces that might be missing because it involves trauma, and I will also talk about that when we get to that. So I'm going to take out a few bits and pieces. But if anything seems confusing, you guys feel free to ask questions in the comment sections. I love to answer them for you. So I want to start off by talking about what bipolar disorder is, because there's a huge misconception, especially in the Black community, that bipolar disorder is the same thing as borderline personality disorder. That is not true. Okay, so the way that people talk about bipolar disorder is kind of like this person who goes from 0 to 100 in a second. You know, I love you, I hate you. Oh, you know, let's go out together, it's gonna be fun, I'll kill us both, you know. That's more borderline personality disorder. Obviously, that's not a completely accurate picture of it, but that's more that versus bipolar disorder really is manic depression. It means you have depression on the low end, and at the high end you have mania. Now, most people know what depression is by now, because a lot of us have gone through it in the pandemic. But depression, you know, basically is like, it's not just extreme sadness. I know a lot of people think, oh, you're just really, really sad. Not necessarily. You can be depressed and be experiencing things like a lack of motivation. You might sleep all the time. You might, you know, not be able to sleep. You might lose your appetite and be, you know, not be hungry and not want to eat anything for days. Or you might be really hungry and want to eat. You might lose a lot of weight. You might gain a lot of weight. But really it comes down to the neurotransmitters in your brain and your serotonin and your dopamine and how that affects your mood and your ability to do things. So the thing about depression that's different from regular sadness is like regular sadness has a cause. You know, like my grandma died, I'm sad. My girlfriend broke up with me, I'm sad. And it's not to say like, you know, you don't need to see a therapist about that or that's not bad. Like you should definitely, you know, get help for that. But the difference is, you know, you have a cause and you can work on that cause versus depression can hit you without a cause. And the reason that those, you know, need like therapy intervention and a lot of times like different medications you have to take is because your brain is doing something without a cause. It's just acting up and it's just like, we're depressed now and we're going to be depressed for the next several months. You're not going to want to eat. You're not going to want to sleep. You're not going to want to go to work. It can wreck people's lives. Or at the most extreme end, you could, you know, be doing the whole not alive thing. So that's why depression is much more severe. And some people can have depression just for a few weeks and it's gone. Some people have depression that lasts for months. Some people have depression that lasts for years. And that's why it's different than sadness. You know, eventually you'll get over your breakup. Eventually you'll come to terms with your, you know, your grandmother dying. But depression has no cause. And that means then it doesn't have any reason to go away. You don't just, you know, get out and now you feel better. And so the other thing that happens to you when you're bipolar is mania. And mania is I think mania is kind of where people get confused at when they're thinking about bipolar disorder, because mania also can look different ways. So some people can be manic and they feel like they're on top of the world. Nothing can stop them. They can do anything, you know, they could run a marathon, you know, they could sleep with people, whoever they want. They could do drugs. They can do whatever they want and they feel great and everything's great. And they also don't need sleep anymore. And in our society where everything is based off of being productive, not needing sleep and feeling like you can do all these things without sleep, at first it's kind of rewarded, right? It's like, oh yeah, this is great. You don't sleep? Perfect. But obviously you need to sleep. So if you're not sleeping, it's going to cause problems. That's one side of mania. Other symptoms of mania could be like irritability, racing thoughts, inability to like relax or calm down, kind of feeling super impulsive, spending your entire savings buying things that you don't even want or even like, you just need to spend the money, eating things that you don't want or like, you just need to consume things, kind of feeling out of control of your own body. And it all comes together. So you might be manic and not even be happy. You might just be really irritable and kind of feel like you can't really control yourself too much. And so these are things that I wanted to clear up before I start talking about my past and my history and how I came to be diagnosed as bipolar. Do you need some, Sadie? Okay, I guess I'm just gonna cover her tail like this. But yeah, so as long as I can remember growing up, even as a child, I was always depressed. Like always. And I didn't really have a term for it. I just didn't really feel, I didn't really feel happy. I didn't really have the motivation for anything. I was kind of going through the motions of life, and nothing about life was particularly interesting or enjoyable. Even things that I might seem like I liked, I didn't really like them anymore. It was just kind of like, whatever, life sucks. And when I was young, my mother, because after she left my father, she would take me and my siblings to this nonprofit for women and children who had been victims of abuse. And so we went to these individual and group therapy sessions where we would talk about like how we feel and, kind of get therapy. And group therapy sucked because every single week I would come into group therapy and they'd ask me how I'm feeling. And I'd be like, shitty, awful, hate life. Everything's bad all the time. And sometimes there would be a specific thing that made me upset that day. And then other times I'd just be like, everything just sucks. Everything just sucks. I'm just not happy, And there was a lot of pressure in group therapy to have improved in some way, like to be like, oh, I feel better than I did last week, and if you were always feeling bad, you kind of felt bad because everybody else was feeling better. And it kind of felt like you were just making everybody else feel bad. I really didn't like it. And then I got to the point where I just started faking it. Like I would come in and they'd be like, how you doing, Minu? And I'd be like, oh, I'm great. I'm happy, blah, blah, blah. And they'd be like, oh, that's great. Yay. And at some point I told my mom, I'm like, I just say that I'm happy when I come because it's easier than trying to explain to them why I'm not happy, because I didn't know why I wasn't happy. I just wasn't. And then I started seeing a therapist individually. Once my mom told the group therapist that I was lying, they were like, well, there's no point in her being in group therapy. She needs to see someone individually. So I started seeing this therapist individually. I'm going to add an extra layer to this. Actually, the individual therapist that I started seeing was a white woman. And I feel like that is going to make more sense as I go on about my experiences with therapy. But she was a white woman and, she would ask me how I'm feeling. And, I would just kind of talk about, like, don't feel good, don't feel happy, hate everything. We just kind of hang out for the hour because there was nothing to really talk about. Because, yeah, I could say, like, oh, I'm mad at my mom because she took my, I don't know what I had of value at that time. Books, she took something, but that wasn't the bigger picture. That wasn't the real reason why I was unhappy. I was just unhappy all the time. And it was just my normal. And so we would just hang out and just talk about whatever. And at some point she told my mom that I need to see a psychiatrist because here it is. We've been going to these people. I don't know if it was years or a year, but it was a long time that we were seeing these people and I was not improving at all. I don't know what my siblings were going through because we didn't do the same group therapy. They were older than me, but I just showed no improvement with regular therapy. And so she told my mom that she wanted me to see a psychiatrist. After she told my mom that, I ain't see that lady no more. I don't know the reason. My mom never told me why we stopped going. But after she said that, she was gone. And so I just had to deal with being unhappy for several years. And I remember around the time I was 11, and the only reason I know that I was 11 at the time was because there was this show that was on, and it was a really big show amongst Black people. It was a Tyler Perry show, and I had to look back and see when that show aired because I really liked the show. I hated Tyler Perry's plays. I was forced to watch them all the time, but I liked the show. I thought it was funny. And my family did this whole family thing of like, hey, let's get together as a family. Every Wednesday we would watch the show. And because I liked the show and I liked tuning in for the episodes, I remember telling myself, you can't commit, not alive, before Wednesday because you want to watch that show on Wednesday. And so even back then, I was like, life sucks. You probably should just end it. But don't end it before Wednesday because you want to watch your show. But then after Wednesday, you have between Thursday and Tuesday to do it. And if Tuesday comes, then I'll tell myself again, like, oh, well, Wednesday's tomorrow, so I can't do it. So I was thinking about committing not alive from that early just because I just hated life. I was depressed all the time. Nothing brought me happiness. School sucked. Family sucked. I mean, yeah, I liked reading books, but that wasn't making my life any better, or even like I was doing well in school, but that didn't mean anything to me. It was just, I get A's because I'm supposed to get A's, like whatever. So I was constantly thinking about it just over and over again, like all the different ways that I can do this. Like, okay, we got knives in the house. I had always liked knives. For whatever reason, probably a safety thing. But I was like, okay, we got knives in the house. We got some sharp knives. We can do something with that. We got bleach. I was like, and I wasn't on the internet because I wasn't really into doing stuff on the internet. I didn't really know what was on the internet other than my brothers watching porn. So I was like, there's nothing on the internet for me. So I was just thinking about stuff. I was like, okay, I know if you drink bleach, that'll do it. Knives will do it. If you eat bread too fast, you can choke on it and that'll do it. Just all kinds of things that I was just coming up with to do it. And then there was a situation in elementary school. I was getting bullied all the time. I would say I was being bullied probably first grade to 12th grade. Like it was just a part of my life that I got bullied at school. And one day in elementary school, I was getting bullied by this kid and he was like throwing stuff at me. And we had a sub that day. I remember he was like throwing stuff at me. And then I threw a pencil at him because he was throwing stuff at me. And the teacher saw me throw stuff. So she made me go to the office. Now I spent a lot of time in the office in elementary school, mostly because it didn't mean anything to go to the office then. It wasn't like I was getting suspended. Or anything was going on my permanent record. I just would have to sit in the office until the end of the day because the teacher didn't want to deal with me. So if I wanted to get out of something, I just, put my feet up on the desk, throw a pencil, boom, I'm in the office, whatever. I hate being in class because the teachers don't do anything about bullying in the class. So why not just go sit in the office until my mom shows up to get me or my brother or whoever picks me up at the end of the day. But this time I was sent to the office for throwing a pencil and I thought it was bullshit because I was like, I'm sick of it, being treated this way. Obviously he threw something at me. He should go to the office or we both should go to the office, whatever. It shouldn't just be me. And the teacher was like, I ain't trying to hear none of that. Go to the office. And I was like, man. So instead of going to the office, I just had this idea of like, fuck it, just fuck everything. Like, just leave. Like, you could just leave the building, you could just run away, go wherever, And in my mind, it was like, from what I seen in movies, like, oh, if I wander long enough, somebody's going to like kidnap me or shoot me or whatever. It's not a safe place that I grew up in. So I was like, if I just do this, bad things will happen and then maybe everything will be over. So I just left the school. And I left the school and I wandered around for a bit. trying to figure out where to go, but I didn't really have anywhere to go. So I ended up staying like in the vicinity of the school and I don't know how long I was outside. It like rained and then it snowed. Like I was like, damn, I've been out here for a minute, and I had no intention of going back in because I couldn't sneak back in. There was no sneak exits. I would have had to go back in like to the office, and I didn't want to. So at some point the police showed up because they couldn't locate where I was. And so they called the police because they was like, oh, we got a missing kid, runaway kid, whatever they told them. So then I showed back up. I just walked back in. I was like, okay, the police is here. This is too much. And I went back in and they were like, well, since you got us all worked up and everything, you're suspended. And I was like, okay, whatever. Got a whooping for it. You know, I wasn't one of those kids who ever responded well to whoopings because I feel like when you have major depression, being physically hit does not help that. You don't learn anything. So I got a whooping and I had to stay over at my dad's house for 3 days because my mom was a single mom working and all that stuff. And then also, you know, I got even more bullied because everybody was like, yeah, we heard that you got arrested because the police showed up and blah, blah, blah. And it didn't matter. It didn't matter. I still didn't care. I was still getting bullied. Nothing changed from me getting that suspension. Teachers still, you know, didn't treat me properly. Students still didn't treat me properly. School still sucked. Home still sucked. It didn't mean anything. But that started kind of the thoughts of I should just run away. Like maybe I don't know where I'm going, but if I go far enough, no one will find me. So I had those thoughts then of like, okay, this could be something, you know, maybe I run away, get kidnapped, and you know, I'm not alive anymore. So I thought about that stuff a lot. Middle school came, same shit, different day, you know, bullied by teachers, bullied by students, whatever. I mentioned in my atheist video, I stopped believing in God in elementary school, and in middle school, I got bullied more because I didn't believe in God, and teachers tried to make me. Students was like mad at me. But it just didn't really seem like believing in God added anything to my life because, like I said, my life sucked for the most part. God wasn't helping. God didn't make me happy. God didn't make me, you know, grateful for what I have. In fact, people be like, oh, thank God you woke up this morning. I'd be like, damn it, God, again. You mean tell me I could just not wake up and you're making me wake up? I hated it. I hated my birthdays because one, I didn't have any birthday parties until like high school with my friends because I didn't have friends. But two, you know, it would always be something bad happening on my birthday. You know, I get into it with my mom because she don't like my attitude. And let me take a moment to just talk about Black moms. Your child being quiet is not them having an attitude. It's because they're quiet. Now, if they seem upset about something and they're quiet, you don't respond by being angry at them or threatening to whoop them or threatening to take things away from them because they're not acting the way you want to. You want to ask them what's wrong, because your job as a parent is for your child to be happy. You know, maybe you can't provide for them like all the newest toys and the newest clothes and the newest shoes. And, you know, you might struggle to keep a roof over their head. We had those problems. That happens. But it's your job as a parent to make sure your child is safe and happy. If your child is not happy, you need to figure out what's wrong. You do not need to be like, I'm so sick of your attitude. Why you got an attitude today? You have an attitude every day. That's not how you respond to children like that, because it's likely your child is going through something and you might want to be compassionate about that. Okay, rant over on that part. But that was kind of how my mother responded to me always having an attitude, never wanting to speak at family functions, always isolating myself from family functions. Like, yeah, we had to go over to my grandmother's house and I would hide in the bathroom or I'd hide in my grandmother's room. I just didn't want to be around people because I was also very introverted, and it's very draining to be part of a large family where we have to constantly have all these different events where it's people everywhere. You have to keep up with everybody. I don't remember all my cousins and all my aunts and uncles, and like, it's too many people. I don't have time to be remembering all these people, and it was just a lot for me. It was very overwhelming to be around people all the time. I wanted to be alone. I wanted to isolate myself. And I know in some cases when you're an introvert, it's good to isolate yourself, but when you're depressed, it's not good. So I can't exactly remember how old I was, maybe middle school or high school. I don't remember, but my family went on trips every year up until a year before COVID. But my family went on trips every year. And one year I was just super depressed. And it was not the year for that, because we had went to this awesome place. It was this super big water park. I didn't know how to swim. I had a lot of problems with being in the water, but it was still a really, really nice place to be, and it was I think it was one of the very few times that a large part of my family all were able to afford to go on a trip at the same time together. So usually it's just a few people in the family, or me and my aunt and those cousins, but I had multiple aunts and multiple cousins. So it was one of the few times that even my sister got to come on a trip. My sister, my brother, a lot of my cousins, a lot of my aunts, we all got to come on a trip, and it should have been a happy occasion because, we all got to be together. I was depressed. There was no reason why I was depressed. There was no reason I was upset. I was just super, super depressed. One of the things you have to look out for with depression is that even in a situation that I would have thoroughly enjoyed, where I would have been happy, I wasn't. I remember as I'm talking now, we were at the water park area, and yeah, there was some areas that were like super deep, like 19 feet. And I was like, I can't go, I can't swim. But there was some other areas where it could have been fun. I wouldn't have been, severely hurt. It would have been like, 5 feet or whatever. And my mom was trying to get me to do it, and I just did not want to do it. Even though it seemed fun, even though it seemed like something that I would enjoy doing, I did not want to do it. And I even cried about it, because I could not make myself do it. And that's another thing about depression that people who don't experience it need to understand. Even though we want to do things, even though we would like to do things, you can't. Like, there's a block that's saying you can't do this. And it's very distressing. It's very upsetting, to have that kind of mental block, because you want to have fun with your family. You want to have fun. You're on vacation. You don't have to go to school. I don't have a job. I don't really have any money worries because I'm a kid, and I can't do it. And that's really, really upsetting. So that happened. And my mom had no idea. Once again, I was crying for like no reason. And I think at this point she had gotten used to it. Well, more, I guess, frustrated, because she's always crying. And she had stopped taking me to a therapist. So in her mind, it was just like, whatever. She had no idea to deal with the fact that I was just always sad, or I was always mad about anything and everything. In my mind, I wasn't sad about nothing. I was just sad to be sad, which made no sense to my family because we don't understand mental health. I was going through it, and I remember one time I was out with my aunt, and one of my aunts is like super religious, and she knew that I wasn't religious, and so she was kind of aggressive about that, trying to get me to convert back to Christianity. She was annoying in that way. She was like, well, you don't want to be a Muslim, do you? Or you don't want to be a Satanist, do you? God is da-da-da-da-da. And I don't care. But anyway, I was hanging out with her, and we were going somewhere, and there was this family with a lot of kids. And I remember being like, oh, are these your kids? And the lady was like, yeah. I was like, oh, okay. I think I said something like, wow, that's a lot of kids, or something like that. And my aunt got mad at me for being disrespectful. And I was like, whatever. And then I left being with her. We got back to the hotel room. My mom was there. Her boyfriend was there. Me and her boyfriend, we hated each other. So that was another thing. And my mom was trying to talk to me about something. I don't remember what she was trying to talk to me about, because I was so in my head. It's like you get this like tunnel vision. Like you can't even acknowledge the things that are going on around you, or even people that are talking to you. I probably was like dissociating or something. I was just so in my head, and all I could think about was I want to go eat some hot dogs. And the way I like to eat hot dogs is like, I like to cut them up, put some mustard and some cheese on them, cheddar cheese. I don't fuck with the American. But that's all I could think about was like, I'm hungry. I'm going to make some hot dogs. Because this was a long trip. So we had brought food because we weren't going to eat hotel food. That cost too much. So I go in the kitchen and my mom's talking to me about something, like, again, completely out of it, can't hear anything, can't process anything outside of I'm going to get hot dogs. And I grabbed the hot dogs. I grabbed the mustard and the cheese, and then I grabbed a knife to cut open the hot dog bag and to cut up the hot dogs. And so at some point, my mom got like this close to me, and I couldn't register what she was saying or what she was doing. I was completely out of it. And so she decided to grab my hand. Oh my God, she's calling me. How hilarious. No, I do not want to talk to you right now, Mom. I am going through it. But she decided to grab my hand that didn't have the knife in it. So I had the knife like this, and she grabbed this hand. She was on the side of me. So she grabbed my hand, and that shocked me. I was like, wait, what's happening? So I pulled away from her, and she interpreted me, one, pulling away from her is disrespectful, but she interpreted me pulling away from her like this and my arm going like this with a knife. She interpreted that as me being about to like stab her. Not what I was doing, but she interpreted it that way. So me disrespecting her and me having this knife, she decided to hit me. Black parents, it is not okay to slap your child or hit your child. I know you think that is discipline. I know you think that they disrespectful and they need some sense knocked into them. It is not okay, because if you have a child with a mental, well, one, even if your child doesn't have a mental illness, it's very scarring and traumatic to be hit by your parents. It is. You're just teaching them to be afraid of you, and you're teaching them that violence is the answer. But two, if your child has a mental illness, they are going to interpret you hitting them not as an act of tough love. They're going to interpret it as you're beating me because you hate me. And I've seen it with other people who are bipolar, people who are schizophrenic and are a part of these Black families where they think that violence is the answer to their child, and it is not. So stop doing it. You are damaging your children and you are damaging your grandchildren because their parents grew up thinking that it's okay to hit people that you love, and it's not. Okay. Other rant over. But yeah, so she hit me, and then we end up getting into this big fight because someone hit me in the face, so I'm swinging back. And so we end up getting into this big fight. At some point, her boyfriend jumps in. He don't like me, so he takes his licks. And then my mom does this whole thing, and I'll talk about this more when I talk about like trauma and stuff like that. But she does this whole dramatic, I can't believe my child hit me, stuff. And then she brings like the entire family. Now remember, the entire family was here on the trip. So everybody was going to get everybody in the other hotel rooms like, hey, you know, they got into a fight, get over here. So everybody was coming over and they were all yelling at me because, you know, the understanding of me is that I always have an attitude. I'm always disrespectful. So they thought that, you know, I had just assaulted my mom out of nowhere. So they were all yelling at me about it. I don't know what they thought was going to help in that situation, but obviously, like, again, I said, I was very mentally out of it. I was very depressed. So me being yelled at by my entire family did not help at all. So my sister, and this is one of the very few trips that my sister had gone on. So thank goodness my sister was there, because my sister had experienced depression as well. And she understood that I am not who the family portrays me as. She understood that I would never try to stab my mother. She understood that I would never just swing on my mother like that. That's not something that I would do. Now, she also understood that if I did swing on someone or threaten to stab someone, it's because they did something to me that was so bad that I felt the need to do that. And so she had, not even knowing what really happened, she gave me the benefit of the doubt, and she helped me, you know, sneak out of the hotel room. It was a big hotel room, so there was different doors and everything. She helped me sneak out of the hotel room and get to another room where some of my younger cousins were, where we were kind of like, you know, like, let's just calm down. Like, everything just got too crazy. They were like, let's just calm down and sit down and, maybe drink, maybe smoke, whatever, but let's just de-escalate the situation. Because the rest of my family, like all the older people, the people my mom's age, they were escalating the situation. My brother was also escalating the situation. And they was just because they just thought that I had just started hitting my mother out of nowhere. And so they thought they needed to put me in my place. Whereas my younger cousins and my sister was like, let's de-escalate and let's talk about what happened. Like, my sister sat me down and she asked me, she was like, what happened? And I told her my version of the story. Now my mom and I have different versions of the story. That's fine. I told her my version of the story and she was like, let's get you away from this. I know you would never, put your hands on someone unless you really felt like you were being threatened or you were being done wrong. Let me get you away from this. So, sis, thank you. But so then that happened, and eventually most of the family members, like, they calmed down. They went back to their own hotel rooms. Nobody came to get me or anything like that. But I was so depressed. I remember I was hanging out with my cousin, who was the only cousin I have that's actually my age. And I was thinking so hard about being like not alive. Like, I was like, you know what? This is too much. I'm done. I have no future. I don't care about anything. We were on a balcony. We were really high up. I don't remember what floor we were on, but I remember I was looking down and I saw that there was like a little bit of a pond or lake or whatever. And then around it was the ground. And I was like, And I was like, man, if I jump from this height, I probably not survive it. And it also will probably be a quick end, if you know what I mean. And so, like, I climbed up on the goddamn balcony. I was like ready. I was like, you know what? I can do this. It won't hurt. It won't hurt. I won't be like suffering for long. It'll just be over with. This is the best situation. I've been given the opportunity to do this. And like, that's the way that I was thinking. And my cousin was there and she was like, girl, what are you doing? Like, no, get down. We're not doing this. No, And, she talked to me and she was like, I know how you feel. I've been depressed too. And I felt these ways before. And she kind of just, saved my life and, sat me down and was like, let's talk about it. I understand you. I understand how you're feeling. And that's really what I needed. And I feel like that's what a lot of people who are depressed need, is like someone to sit you down and say, I get you. Your feelings are valid. They are real. And I understand you. I feel the same way sometimes. And I love you and I care about you. And let's work through this together. So coming down from that moment is kind of when I started being like, I need to see a therapist again. Like, I need to talk to somebody because this is crazy. This is too much.